Hey War fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with kind of a random review. This is one that I've been meaning to get and review. Found it for like $5, so I was like, it's about time I watch this again because I haven't seen it since it like came out. 2011's You're Next. Excuse me. Which it says 2011. That was when it was released in festivals. Came out, on DVD and stuff in 2013. Because I remember redboxing it back then. Summer 2013. It says it's a slasher film. I mean, if it says it, then that's what it is. I'm not going to argue with it. But I would call this more of a home invasion film. It's definitely more along the lines of The Strangers than it is like a slasher film. But I always give hell to people that think, well, I thought it was this, and that's what it is. Well, I guess it wouldn't really qualify as that, because I'm not saying it's a thriller or a psychological thriller or anything. It's still a fucking horror film. But slasher or home invasion, You're Next. This is a movie that is directed by Adam Wingard, who also directed The Guest and Death Note. I think it was the American... Yeah, the American version of Death Note, which I haven't seen. I know it's quite polarizing. But he did do The Guest, which I feel like I've seen, but I'm not quite sure. Oh, he's directed a lot more. Oh, he directed the Blair Witch reboot / sequel. Okay. Godzilla vs. Kong, which is out next year. Cool. And it stars Sharni Vinson, Nicholas Tucci, Wendy Glenn, A.J. Bowen, Joe Swanberg, Barbara Crampton, and Rob Morin. Barbara Crampton, why does that... Aha! Reanimator and From Beyond. Yes, okay. She plays the mother. Knew she looked familiar. Okay, well, that's instantly now one of my favorite aspects. She was the female lead in Reanimator, which is like my 6th favorite film of all time. And From Beyond, which is awesome. It was made for about $1 million, made around $26 million. And when this came out, it got a lot of notices. Did very well on Rotten Tomatoes, usually hovering around between 80 and 90%. When I first saw it, I remember liking it when I saw it. Of course, that was when my drinking was taken over. Never remembered much from it. It's one that I've been asked about time and time and time again. I think the main reason why I picked this up was because... What was the last Lionsgate? See, I'm getting to the point now where I'm even forgetting what I've reviewed. The one that says Lionsgate goes full Blumhouse. Bear with me, folks. I'm starting to lose my mind here. And this tablet is slow as shit. Should have done all this first. Winchester. Okay. I reviewed Winchester. I said, this is a Lionsgate film that feels like Blumhouse. This is more Lionsgate doing Lionsgate. I think that was when I was like, I'll go out and I'll pick up You're Next, because I knew it was like $5. I was like, there, I'll do another Lionsgate film. While I don't dislike the film, I can definitely say I don't love it as much as everyone else does. I would say it's a little overrated. I definitely like it more than Winchester. Movies of this kind, home invasion films, I prefer The Strangers. I prefer Inside. I much prefer that. Because The Strangers, it builds Hush. I prefer Hush to this. I think Hush is a very well done film. I will even put Don't Breathe over this. Because at least, and I would say The Strangers is probably my favorite out of all of those, because it does build the most tension, the most atmosphere, least amount of jump scares. Inside is just The Strangers gone extreme, but I really like Inside as well. You basically have this yuppie family. The parents, I think there's 3 sons, a daughter, and all their significant others. They're all meeting. They're coming together for dinner, and I mean, it looks. They have a nice, big, beautiful house out in the country. They look like a picture-perfect upper-class family, but they all have their issues. I guess mainly we follow. I think it's the middle son, Crispin, played by A.J. Bowen, his girlfriend, Sharni, who I believe is like a nurse. Oh, it's a vacation home in rural Missouri. Older brother Drake, his wife, siblings Felix and Amy, and their partners. Felix is the youngest. He's dating like this alternative, sort of like a Aubrey Plaza type girl. And then Amy is dating like a hipster filmmaker. And they all, you get the parents have these very high standards for who dates their kids. Aaron has some sort of accent. Can't quite tell from where. But they're all very snarky. The oldest brother, Drake, played by Joe Swanberg, he's very passive-aggressive and talks about how he's better than everyone else. Crispin can't stand him. An argument breaks out, and we have these 3 masked assailants outside. Fox, Tiger, and Lamb. Which, the Fox one, it just makes me think of the Terrible Trio from Batman the Animated Series. That would have been cool if it was Fox, Shark, and Hawk. I think it was Hawk or Eagle. I can never remember which one the bird was. But Fox, Shark, and then of course the bird. Terrible Trio. That would have been cool. And like during dinner, the youngest brother, not the youngest brother, the hipster filmmaker boyfriend sees something at the window, goes up to it, an arrow gets shot through him, and then the whole family has to go into survival mode. And it's like if you take The Strangers mixed with a little bit of The Collector and just a little, and make the killers kind of like, there was another film I read boxed around this time called Torment, which is about a family with hollowed out stuffed animal heads for masks. And from there, it's like your typical home invasion film. I mean, they try to call for help. The phones don't work. They debate on trying to make a run for the cars or to run through the woods, to disperse, to stay together. The one daughter has to try to run for the cars. So there's like this slow motion run as she goes to the door. And as they open the door for her, they don't realize there's like fiber wire stretched out. So it pretty much slices her open when she runs into it. And I mean, there's really not too much to say about it. I mean, because eventually they do find their way into the house. And it's essentially cat and mouse, inside and outside. I will be getting into spoilers. But, did I say tiger or lion? I think I said lion. No, I said fox. Fox, tiger, and lamb, I think, are the... Yeah. Alright. I'm going to get into spoilers now, but I will say it's good for a Lionsgate film. If you like home invasion films, which I forgot to mention The Collector. I would put The Collector over this as well. If you like home invasion, it's worth checking out. Intense and inventive. Sure, it has its moments of intensity. Inventive, I mean, it's very derivative. It still does its own thing despite being derivative. There's tons of films that do that. Paper Magazine, a new horror classic. Ain't It Cool News, fresh, unpredictable, and terrifying. I mean, it has some twists in it that I guess you might not see coming. But, yeah, I'll get into spoilers. It's not... Sure, I can recommend this. Specifically, I wouldn't recommend it to straightforward slasher fans. Because if you think you're going to get... Especially, like, modern slashers. Like, what are some of the newer slashers I've done? Like, Terrifier. Stuff like that. Not as much. It's definitely more if you're into home invasion, stuff like that. So yeah, then I can recommend it. My own opinion, I mean, I like it. I do. I get enjoyment out of it. Some of the filler parts are kind of boring. It's shot well. For its budget, it's shot well. It's acted well. It is kind of predictable. You can kind of tell where it's going to go. But it's not a bad film. Definitely not a bad film. So I'm going to get into spoilers. As time goes on, one of the brothers sees, like, wrappers, like food wrappers and whatnot, hidden, I think, in, like, the attic. No, it doesn't say, but... That hints that the killers have been hiding within the house the whole time, which means they might know their way around and their ways in and out. The beginning of the film does open at a neighbor's house where they're killed as well. I'm guessing because then, you know, the bodies are propped up in the furniture, the music is on a loop, so that if anyone does make it to the window or the door, it looks like someone's home and they're just not helping them. I'm guessing that is meant to prevent help if anyone gets out, or to see if it will buy some time for them knocking, like, hello, I can see you, like, open the fucking door. I'm guessing it was used as a pawn. They weren't really targets, per se. You find out that they are there because the youngest brother hired them. Hired these 3 guys to go in there, kill the whole family so that he and his girlfriend or wife, I think it's his girlfriend, can collect the full inheritance. And since it's already established that it's a dysfunctional family full of assholes, he doesn't really mind. I mean, especially since the oldest brother, the really pompous, passive-aggressive one, he got shot with an arrow earlier on, then he passes out. And even when he is awake, he's kind of useless. He just kind of stumbles around. But, you know, the youngest brother has to kill him, and there's this scene where he won't stop stabbing him. He's like, Will you die already? This is hard enough. Um, Erin, the lead girl, we find out she sort of goes into like Nancy from Elm Street mode, setting up these traps. She says she grew up in like a survivalist type of household. Her dad always had her in training to survive anything. I watched this a couple days ago. I've watched more forgetful films, so that's why I'm. Actually, I even meant to do another film before I did this, one I just got done with. Another fucking Blumhouse film. Anyway, they start fighting back. One of the masked killers gets killed, which pisses off the other ones. This is around the time we find out the brother and his significant other are in on it. But then the full revelation towards the end, I just don't remember how it was set up. There was one cool death scene where the killer's like been beaten and he's sitting down, so Aaron grabs his blender, takes the thing off and puts it on top of his head, and it's just like chewing his head all up. It is fairly bloody. It's not quite like Inside or even The Collector, but it has its blood. So then that's when oh wait, that was actually the youngest brother. Yeah. Because there's a part where they're like they're in the kitchen together, and she finds out the youngest brother and his girlfriend had been in on it. So she does that to him, and then she tries to fight her off, and she just grabs a knife, puts it in the top of her head. The youngest brother's cell phone rings, so she answers it, thinking it's going to be one of the killers, but it's actually Crispin's voice, because he ran off to get help, left her alone. And he apologizes for fleeing and not helping, and that's when she finds out he was in on it too. That's like the final a revelation. Which I don't remember exactly what I thought. I think I figured it was going to go in the direction that someone in the family had something to do with it. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting the younger brother to be that, because of the way it depicts the Crispin character, like he hates his family. But with how he disappeared throughout most of the film, I was actually expecting him to be one of the ones in the mask. But then Crispin and her are again reunited. He explains everything about the inheritance, how they're shitty people. He offers her so much money of the inheritance, then she kills him. And I will say I did like the ending. The ending had a good 80s feel, because one of her traps is like a Saw, like an early Saw trap, or like from the Saw games, where if someone enters through the door, there's like a shotgun or a gun rigged up. I don't remember what kind of gun it was, rifle or pistol. I think it was a shotgun. The cop sort of sees her killing Crispin at the end, shoots her in the shoulder. She's pleading with him not to come in, but he does. Triggers the gun so it blows his brains out, and the blood splats on the screen. We get these bloody letters that says, "You're next." Oh, and that's also part of it, because when someone in the family gets killed, or someone in the household gets killed, they write "You're next" on the wall in their blood to tell other people that they're next. Did it with the couple in the beginning. After they killed Barbara Crampton, they did that. So, I mean, I know I've gone back and forth on the predictability. It is predictable, but the way they handle the twists, whether they put another twist on the twist or it's slightly different than what you expected. Of course, I can say I definitely enjoyed the film. I don't think it's as good as all these, or really the hype that it got on like Rotten Tomatoes, or the acclaim it got when it first came out, or even the following that it's had since. I mean, people really loved this fucking film. All I can say is that I did enjoy it. It's not my favorite of that year. It's not my favorite home invasion film, but I enjoyed enough. It's one, this definitely isn't a rant. I don't dislike the film. It's not even so much I have issues with it. It's just, I actually can't really think of too many flaws. Again, I wish I did this sooner because it has been a couple days, but I basically just don't like it as much as everyone else. That's basically the only drawback that I have for it. I like the look of the killers, all black, each one wearing an animal mask, even though all three of them are just solid white. Kind of reminds me of the Martin Garrix of Animals video, which, if you remember when that came out, it was only 7 years ago. Shut up. But, yeah, You're Next. Another film that got, I mean, it didn't get like Jordan Peele, Robert Eggers, or Ari Aster amount of acclaim, but it did get some very good notices. I didn't love it as much as everyone else did, but I still very much enjoyed it. So finally, for all those that have asked since I started doing horror movies, that is You're Next. Thank you for watching.